Thank you, Miss Paz. Yes, I do need to record it. The handbrake was made of chrome that hurt but I put the rubber bands to good use immediately by letting them fly at a sauntering cat. The cat, its face like a three-cornered hat, hurried away, keeping its tail up. The handbrake was made of chrome that hurt my eyes when the sun lit its edges. I sat on the magazines, mesmerized, because every time I pinched the lever of the handbrake, the cable moved, not unlike when I pulled on a tendon of a chicken claw and its filthy toes clenched. I walked home slowly and met up with the cat, who now crouched in the stench of weeds where motor oil was poured, its eyes large with worry because he sensed something was up. My brother was eating a watery peach and blowing on his palm. Okay, I'm going to stop my share here. And I want us to take a quick 10 seconds to think. How can we summarize what happens first? What happened in what I just read? Let's summarize. Go ahead, Nashla.
So in what you read, we learned that Gary Soto, that he invented this handbrake, and we also know that he saw this cat and he followed it when he was going home.
Where does he find or invent this handbrake? How was he able to invent it? Haja?
He was able to invent this handbrake by going to the alley next to his house, and he found a bicycle there, so he used the brake from there to help him stop himself from running into the street.
Right, exactly. He also, okay, I'm gonna continue reading, and we're gonna continue summarizing. I'm gonna share my screen. Starting right here on page 14. What's that? My brother Rick asked, a bib of peach juice on his shirt. Thing from a bike. My brother showed me his palm where a sliver had gone in quick as a stitch on a sewing machine when he climbed the rabbit hutch at the Molina's house. I winced and asked if it hurt. He squeezed it until a bubble clear as glass popped from the wound. A sliver is a splinter. It's another word for splinter. I polished the handbrake with the same liquid Mom used to clean the floor and spent the afternoon pulling the lever until I was bored and thirsty for something to do. I got it into my head that I should wrap the cable around my waist and think of the lever as the thing that made me stop and go. It was mostly go for a 5-year-old running up and down the block, the sun yellow, tree high and slanting over the junkyard. My brother, 2 years older, wiser from glass-punctured feet, nosebleeds, and now a sliver in his palm, didn't think much of this game. He watched me from the shaded porch where flies circled, a halo of black around his head, and called me stupid for staying in the sun. But nickel-colored water from the garden hose cooled my head, and yellow-green apricots from a low branch where sparrows flittered watered my tongue. Mr. Drake, our neighbor who had given up chasing his chickens, drank water from a hose and yelled at me to sit down because he was getting hot and just watching me. Your mother is going to find you dead, he said. It's not right to run out there. There was the street. Soft asphalt that we sometimes pulled up in little chunks because someone said it was good to chew. I looked at the sun's sparkling edges and spiders dropping eggs on dry skeins. I listened to Mr. Drake, who wagged a wrench-thick finger at me and sat under the chinaberry where I ate a plum and fondled the lung-shaped leaves of bean plants. I liked how they felt, soft and cool, and liked how they drank squirts of water from a Coke bottle. Then I raced down to the railroad tracks on Van Ness. The sun gleamed off the steel rails. The wind moved a hat-sized tumbleweed, and I raced after it. I raced a taxi filled with sailors and danced from one foot to the other foot when the crossing guard dropped and the red light and iron bell began to throb. The train, huge as a cloud, beat me by inches to the wind-whipped oleander that I had picked as the finish line. When I returned home, I was dusty from my naked feet to the crystals of dirt on my eyelashes. I drank water from the garden hose and cooled myself with 6 plums. I was tired but happy. 10 seconds to quickly gather our thoughts, think about what is going on here. All right, let's go ahead and summarize what I just read. What happens next? Aisha, what happens next? Aisha, are you talking? Are you talking or are you not talking? I can't tell. Okay, Aisha, I don't think your sound's working if you are speaking. Scarlett, summarize what I just read. Go ahead.
Okay, so you just read that the speaker he was dirty from something
From what? So what was he doing?
because he was playing in something dirty.
That doesn't seem like a lot of detail to me. It doesn't seem like you were paying attention very closely. Somebody help Scarlett out. I've already heard from Haja. I already heard from Akia. Go ahead, Janae. Once I can unmute you.
Basically,
Go ahead, Jane.
so basically what he was doing was that like he was racing around the area he was in, and he was being yelled at by his brother and his and someone else, and then he kept racing around like a crazy old kid around the block he lived in, and he raced towards the train tracks where he finished his lap and then went back home to cool himself down.
Okay, Casey, add on. Once I can unmute you. Go ahead, Casey.
And he also was dirty from running around racing taxis and trains. And his neighbor, Mr. Dre, he said that his mother's gonna find him dead if he kept on running around.
Right.
After
So
he got back,
go ahead, sorry, Casey.
he ate plums to cool himself down.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Gary is talking to his brother and then goes back to playing in the street, and how does he use the handbrake? How is the handbrake a part of what he's doing? Mensa, go ahead.
The handbrake. Wait, could you please show me the text again so I can use evidence?
Sure.
Okay, so what he's doing the handbrake is since he's born and he I think just finished cleaning it. When he's polished the handbrake, what he's doing is that I think he's pretending that he's doing something like driving or something.
Right, so he's using the handbrake and pretending like it's making him stop and go, right? So, and then like Casey mentioned that once he is done, he gets really, really tired and he goes and cools down by eating some plums. So I'm gonna continue reading. I believe I'm at I rose to my feet. Haja, eyes? Checking to make sure everyone's eyes are on the screen. All right. When I returned, I rose to my feet and I went to my abuela's, to run with her 3 chickens. When the cat came out of the weeds, shaking a lanyard of long grass from her paw, I tightened the handbrake and came to a stop. The cat stopped and looked at me for the longest time, knowing from this and previous lives that he should stay away from half-naked kids. He hurried away, ears pulled back, and I hurried after it, the cable jumping on my waist, a lever shining with sunlight and God's forgiving stare. We stood watching the steam rise from the gray, soapy dishwater and thought deeply about the cold pipes that rushed water to us from snow-slushed mountains. We watched the water, mesmerized by the transaction of heat to air, both of us glad that we lived in a house where you could press an ear to the wall and hear the faraway sounds. With the dishes out of the way, my brother and I scurried down to the end of the block to look once more at the shoe prints, which now seemed smaller, though not small enough to calm our minds. I got down on my knees and measured my hands in the print. Sorry. Oh, I always lose my place, and I always use you guys to help me, but I've lost my place. Calmed our minds. I got down on my knees and measured my hands in the print. 3.5 hands, not 4. When I lifted my hand, 2 red ants were pressed into my palm, staggering with bent antennas and broken legs. With a cheek half, Scarlett, I suggest that you focus because you were not focused before, so you need to make sure you're focused now. With a cheek fat with summer air, I blew them off, with a little scared of the red ant's bitter bite. Rick said that 1,000,000 ants could easily fill those prints, and if the ants decided to do it one day, they could flood over our house when they were through. Rick and I returned home, darkness gathering around trees, bushes, and parked cars. We played with a punctured, multicolored beach ball under an orange porch light until I stubbed my toe on the cement steps and my sobbing reminded Mother that it was late and we still had to bathe. We bathed in scalding water and cooled off. In bed, I listened to the broom factory, the loud whack of straw being wired onto red, yellow, and blue sticks. There was another worry, because I had once said hello to a worker, and he had said hello back. One day, he might show me the machinery, and by accident, I might fall into a hamper of straw and get tangled in the machine that tied the wire. I got up and stood at the window, and the smell of crushed china berry in the warm summer air. The junkyard facing our house was a silhouette of iron pipes and jagged sheet metal. A dog barked as a car circled out of the driveway, the sweep of headlights passing over my hands as they clutched the windowsill. Back in bed, I closed my eyes, convinced that because the giant's brain was so far from his feet, he would have no pity when he turned onto our street. Okay. Somebody summarize the end of the text for me, the end of that chapter. Go ahead, Haja.
Basically, at the end of the chapter, him and his brother went to their grandma's house and started playing, and then they were playing under the steps, and the narrator stubbed his toe. So then they went back home, and when they were sleeping, the narrator was thinking about the broom factory, and then he went to sleep.
Okay. Jada, go ahead.
I agree with you, Haja, and I think at the end of the text, it was like the speaker was looking outside the window thinking about going to the factory.
Okay. Anthony?
In the end, the speaker, he I think he was trying to have more fun before going to bed. So I think he went with his brother and they had fun, but then an accident occurred and then he had to go. It's like the same thing that happened to the brother, that an accident occurred to him, so they had to go too. I think this chapter was about like when they were playing and then something occurred, something maybe like a little bit drastic occurred, and then they had to go home.
Okay, maybe. And so you look like you're dying to say something, so go ahead.
Okay, so what I was gonna summarize for this text is that what we know is that I could infer that the narrator and his brother are bored, and I say that they're bored because after the dishes they seem like they had nothing else to do, so they decide to go to outside and like check the footprints, and like they're acting like detectives or doing something at least to make them entertained, and then finally they had to go to bed because it was late out.
Right, and then so they go home after playing with the handbrake and playing again in like kind of unconventional spaces, and they're able to shower off, and then he's thinking about the factory at the end of the day. So that's a quick list of points and a quick summary of what happened in the chapter that we read. As a quick reminder, there's some of us who are not sitting up straight. There's some of us who I know that sometimes we can't avoid having other conversations because somebody comes in, but let's make sure that we're focused with our eyes on the screen. Okay. So now that we've summarized all of the major points that took place in the short story, we are going to move on to determining importance. So determining importance is important because it helps us understand what are like the details that are really, really key to understanding the story. And we want to think about, and it helps us think more critically and analyze what we read, Simon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type out the discussion prompt into the chat. I'm gonna chat it to everybody. It is, what is the handbrake's significant? I can't spell significant. All of a sudden, I forgot how to spell it. Significant to the narrator. So DP1. What is the handbrake's significance to the narrator? So we want to think about what we read yesterday and how the Buddha was important. And we want to know about how the narrator feels about his handbrake and maybe what it would symbolize. I'm going to give us until 12:57 to answer this. So that's now it's 3 minutes. So I should see us writing, whether or not we have a notebook or some blank pieces of paper to do our writing. Zainab, I love how Zainab has her camera positioned so I can see her work. So does Zayana. Let's make sure we're not sharing screens. We have about 2 more minutes. Yes, Ethan. I'll never let me unmute you. I got it. Go,
Can I
go.
go to the bathroom?
Yes, you may. Go ahead. Melvin, that's an unacceptable answer. I don't know. It's not an answer. One more minute. Ronnie working. Okay, I'm gonna start us off with Giselle. All of our eyes are on the screen and we're giving Giselle our attention because like we stated yesterday, it can be kind of intimidating to talk on Zoom in front of everybody. So let's make sure that we're giving her our attention. Go ahead, Giselle. Haja.
So my answer was that I think that the handbrake is the narrator's an important memory to him, and the reason I say that is because if he looks back at it today, he will remember his childhood and what his childhood was like.
Okay, great. Somebody else, let's think about the significance of the handbrake. Go ahead, Zainab.
I said that the narrator has a lot of interest in
the handbrake because he was pretending to stop and go on the handbrake as if it was a bike or a car.
Okay, and so why do you think that it was important? Yeah, he made himself pretend to stop and go. Why is that? Why do you think that that's an important thing to have?
I think that it's important because, like Giselle said, it was a memory from when he was younger.
Okay, let's be a little more. So let me clarify. Like, yeah, a memoir is, or memories. They're obviously these are all important memories to Gary Soto, or else he wouldn't have written about them. But so why is the handbrake an important memory? Let's answer with a because. Go ahead, Akia.
I think that the handbrake is an important memory because Gary Soto used it when he was feeling bored or lonely because he had no one else to play with during that time. And for example, the Buddha was also something he played with when he was feeling lonely and when he had no one to play with. So I think the handbrake was something else he used to play because he's pretending to make it go and stop, and he's using his imagination.
Awesome. Haley, add on to that.
Actually, I'd like to add on to it, and I think that the handbrake might symbolize loneliness to the author.
Okay, what do you mean by that? It might symbolize loneliness.
I think symbolizes loneliness because you know that he found a bike in the junkyard and he used it as a toy to play with.
Okay. Great. Safika, and then we're gonna move on to our second discussion prompt.
I think that the handbrake was important to the narrator because like it was one of the only things that entertained the narrator.
Okay, yeah. So this is like it was a way for Soto to feel entertained and amused as he was a kid. So it seems like he had a handbrake, but he didn't actually have like a bicycle to ride. He was just like the Buddha, like Akia mentioned. It was just like another way for him to feel less lonely. Akia, I know you had another thought, so you can.
Oh, I was gonna say that Haley, I think that it's not the Buddha is not a symbol of loneliness. Being lonely in general. It's a symbol of Gary Soto being lonely as a child.
Yeah, right. So it's like his loneliness more specifically. Great. So now that we've discussed what the handbrake represents, let's use those ideas, especially some really, really great ideas that I'm hearing from a lot of us about what this, along with what we read yesterday, means about Gary Soto's childhood. So DP2 is, how could Soto as a child be characterized? How could Soto as a child be characterized? What I'm going to do is, I know I had a couple people ask me to share my screen, so I'll share the text. I'm going to give us until 1:04, so that's about 3 minutes to finish up this discussion prompt. Ethan, writing. Ronnie, writing. Aisha, Casey, writing. Brian, working. I'm gonna scroll down. About 2 more minutes. 1 more minute. Scrolling down. See, Zainab is done. Gabby seems done as well. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Okay. All right, I'm gonna start us off with Abdul Haq. Go ahead, Abdul Haq. Pause. Sorry, Abdul Haq, before you start, let's make sure that our eyes are on the screen as Abdul Haq is sharing. Go ahead, Abdul Haq.
I would characterize him as autistic because
Artistic?
no, like autistic.
Why do you say that? It's interesting.
Because he's lonely with all these objects and not socializing, and
well, I don't know. I don't know if we can. That's more of a. I don't know if that's a character trait, but I understand what you're saying. Like he's in. I would argue that you're saying kind of artistic. Like he's creative, right? Continue with your thought, though. You're saying he feels lonely, but he's inventive, like he's inventing things.
Yeah, I would characterize him as smart because he's inventing stuff while other kids are playing. Like he's the one that is doing all this inventions while all the other kids are wasting their life.
Okay. I'm gonna do Zainab now. Go ahead, Zainab.
Okay, so I think that Gary Soto as a kid can be described as very creative and imaginative because he uses broken things like the handbrake and pretends that it is something better like the bicycle.
Yeah, and then let's go ahead and I'm gonna do Justin, Jaden Jenkins. Justin and then Jaden Jenkins. Justin, go ahead.
Okay, so I would characterize Gary Soto as pretty desperate because like he plays with inanimate objects and he just spends time in the junkyard and doesn't like go to the playground or something and just play with other kids. So like he just like plays by himself basically because he doesn't have anyone to play with.
Okay. Jaden Jenkins, go ahead.
I would say he's positive. Because even though he's lonely and has no one to play with, he always like is cheerful and having fun.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. And now I'm gonna finish this off with Frangelis. Can you finish us off? Go ahead.
The Gary Soto could be described as a loner because he's lonely and he doesn't have much friends, and he also, as Jaden said, or Jaden and Justin said, that he's positive about being, even though he doesn't have friends, he's positive and makes the good things come out of the bad things. Like the broken toy, he fixed it and made it an invention.
Okay, great. Yeah, absolutely. And we're thinking more specifically about his childhood, right? So he could be characterized as somebody who is lonely, but his childhood can also be characterized as one that was lonely or seemed kind of tumultuous, meaning a little like it was difficult to get through, right? Why do I say that it was difficult to get through? That it seems like it was a tumultuous or a challenging childhood. Ethan, go ahead.
I would say that he had a challenging childhood because he was very lonely in his life, and he also didn't really have like much things that like other kids had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like he didn't have as many resources, he didn't have as many things to do, but it seems like he did make the best of it by being really inventive. So great work today. Let's make sure, I know that some of us are getting a little restless as the weeks wear on. You know, we need to make sure that we're continuing to stay super focused and that we're invested in the material just as much as we would be if we were in class. So, Abdulhaq, not in this moment. We are going to go ahead and move on to number stories. So anything you need for reading is away, and your number stories packet that we used yesterday. So the one where it said independent scholar packet. Yes, Nashla.
Which number story is it? Not the packet, but like the number story.
I don't remember. What is it? The topic.
Let me see.
Yeah, I have to get it out.
Dayamara was helping her class.
So somebody was helping their class.
Dayamara.
Dianira, something. Dayanara. We're there in about 1 minute. Mr. Lee, all you.
All right, guys. So once you have it, please hold it up to the screen so I know that you're ready.